You know, here. What's up? I was thinking about something.
What are we thinking about, bro?
I was thinking about what's going on in the earth, right?
What's happening in our minds?
Yeah, and I wondered, why does it matter?
We're about to find out.
Holy shit. Ready?
Just kidding.
Welcome to Earth, Mind, and Matter. We said, fuck it, let's talk about albums. We said, let's talk about some movies and some fucking comics. This week in the universe, across the internet.
So what's up, Javi?
What's going on, Frankie?
Whoa.
Well.
Yo, first of all, rest in peace, Betty White.
Yeah, rest in
bat,
peace, Betty White.
Fucking America's Angel. You know what I mean? That is crazy.
My favorite golden girl.
Yeah, the golden girl. The most golden of girls. Feel me?
True.
And it's a tragedy, but fuck it. There's more people on Earth. There'll be more Betty Whites.
Let's do it.
You know? So we're back. We're back. New Year 2022. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year's.
Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and whatever you believe in.
Or just happy day.
Happy day. Yeah.
You know?
If you're just a negative Nancy in the dirt, happy day or sad day.
Nah,
You know what I
happy
mean?
day.
Happy day. Only happy days.
Listen, you made it to today.
Facts.
That was better than yesterday.
There's a chance that somebody might hear you say that and then die right afterwards. So,
whoa. Let's hope not.
But if they die, they'll never know. They'll never know. Anyway, this is what's happening on the earth
in our minds
and why it matters.
This is Earth, Mind, Matter.
Welcome back. This is a second official episode. We're doing the damn thing today. We have the little structure, right? I'm hosting it today, and of course, we'll get on with our A.M.C section later. Tell the folks what the A.M.C section is for one last time.
We saw A.M.C album, movie, comic.
Every time we shoot the show, we gotta pick one of them. And last week we did album, right?
Album.
2 weeks ago we did album. Blink 182. No, Blink 182. What am I saying? What was the album called?
Cosmic Thrill Seekers.
My bad. We talked about Cosmic Thrill Seekers, what it meant to both of us, how good it was, and I really liked it. First of all, I want to say with that album, again, it was really out of my ordinary listening.
Yeah.
But it was super cool to dive into it. Super crazy. Check that out in the last episode. And we'll talk about something else this time, a movie. All right?
Nice.
But anyway, I'm Frankie.
I'm Javi.
And let's get the show started.
All right.
So today we're going to be talking about a couple of things. As always, this is a podcast. You know, what else will we be doing?
What is this?
A little podcast. What was the podcast called before it was podcast?
I think radio.
Just radio, right?
That was just radio.
Fuck, man. That must have been harder. That must have been harder to do. A lot more censorship. Feel me?
Yeah.
You think you could do something like radio, like censorship and like people telling you, hey, you should say this or that? How would you feel about that?
I feel like it depends like who I work for, like how much I would suck it up. Because like if it's for a company that I like and I care about and whatever the case is, and like I'll suck it up and like I'll avoid saying certain things and things like that and whatever the case is. But like if it's for a company I don't really care about, like
Foot Locker.
Yeah, like it's gonna annoy me every time to do it. I'm like, this is bullshit. This is dumb.
I think the beauty of like doing this is not being censored. You get me? I know a paycheck is great, but also say what you want, because somebody out there's gonna be like, yeah, man, like finally people speaking just unfiltered speech.
And hey, who's to say that we're not getting paid for this?
Ooh,
yet
we're not.
Yet
it's all for the glory right here. But the best things happen. They say with football, right? A lot of people appreciate college football a little more than NFL, because they say the college football players aren't getting paid like NFL players, so they'll grind harder. I think that shit was more boring though. I like watching NFL, but you know, to each his own. Anyway, I got a couple topics we'll be talking about today. You know, one of them is gonna be going to COVID again, but more so the airline flights that have been delayed and canceled. Okay. And China's no COVID policy. Okay. We're gonna be talking about that. We're gonna be talking about Spider-Man, the new one that just came out, No Way Home. I don't know if you ever heard of it. We're gonna talk about that.
Spider-Man, No Way Home. Spider-Man, I Know a Way Home.
In theaters 2023. I'm gonna tell you a little story in my life that should happen, and we'll get into our A.M.C section later.
All right.
Today's a movie. And yeah, so it begins right now, and I'm gonna start off with a little story. Just because I said fuck it, why not share a little something?
Story time.
You ready? Get your snacks ready. So anyway, back then I worked in a Starbucks in Flushing, Queens.
Okay.
Right, Flushing, Queens is a crazy location in New York City. If you're not from New York, if you go there, good luck. It's fucking wild. Not to be negative about it, but it's a great experience.
Yeah.
Great experience, full of people, full of culture. A lot of Asian culture there. And the story I'm going to tell is kind of irrelevant towards Flushing itself, aside the amount of people that were there.
Okay.
But today I was working and I heard a song by Joey Badass from his tape 1999. Music is really great. Very great. Very iconic. Probably his best piece of work. But all I'm doing is mopping, right? And then I hear my coworker David. He's like, hey, yo, come follow me. We're about to close up. I'm like, what's up? He's like, just follow me. Just come. I'm like, all right. So I'm going. And we step out to the sidewalk, right? And there's a crowd of people. There's like maybe hundreds of people. No exaggeration. Hundreds of people. There's a library across the street with some stairs.
Okay.
So the whole stairs were filled with people. All the sidewalk was filled with people. My part of the sidewalk, just hundreds and hundreds of people. Even on the roof were people looking down. And the street was like, there was a person laying down. Right?
Okay.
Now in Flushing, if you've ever been, there's so much traffic.
Yeah.
Back to back traffic, constant honk horning. Honk horning. People smoking cigarettes, spitting at the trash cans, yelling at each other, all that crazy shit. It's really.
I feel like Flushing is like the Chinatown of Queens.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's the China Empire because the town, like, you go to Manhattan, there's a little section for Chinatown, Little Italy, all that stuff. But with Flushing, there's just so many nits and crannies, like all the little spaces. There's so much going on everywhere. And I from working there for a couple of years, the knowledge I took from that place was incredible. And I appreciate it, and I have like a love-hate relationship with it.
Nice.
You know what I'm trying to say? So being around there was awesome, and it taught me how to like be a little tougher, like grittier in terms of personality, but to appreciate things more too.
But did you have breakup sex with the store?
Oh, of course. No, just kidding. But that's for another podcast.
Wait. How many podcasts are you doing?
Man, I got about 17 under my belt, bro.
Well, you said I was your only one.
It's the other earth in mine, bro.
Oh my God.
So anyway, I go outside and there's a crowd of people, hundreds of people. And I'm like, what's going on? And I see a person lying down and they're covered in cardboard.
Okay.
And we're like, what's happening? And David's like, hey, somebody just got ran over.
Holy shit.
So the traffic is so bad there. And what had happened is that a lady tried to jaywalk, but she was an old lady. This lady apparently got run over by one of the buses that go around Flushing. Not an MTA bus. Yeah, one of those like buses that are smaller, like half a real bus, not MTA, private company, but they take people around Flushing. Apparently, the traffic is so bad there that she got ran over. But she got run over multiple times by multiple cars.
Jeez.
Because it was back to back.
Wow.
So I'm there watching. I'm like, what's happening? And then the cops come. And I'm telling you, it's a stadium full of people outside watching this whole scenario. And somebody was kind enough to put cardboard over the body. So before that body was just out there, guts galore. I saw shoes, like her shoes, like far from, like a little close to the body. And I saw some guts outside the cardboard.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy, bro. So I'm watching, and I'm very young at this time. I'm saying like 18, 19, around there, right?
Okay.
And I'm like, holy fuck, I'm being traumatized. Like, realistically, I'm just watching, like, what the fuck, man? The cops come, and they have, just think about the pressure of working in that circumstance with all those people watching you.
Yeah.
And mind you, there's probably videos and all that stuff. So I'm just there watching, and so the I guess the forensics or whatever come. And they get rid of the cardboard and they cover it with a white sheet. Uh-huh. So what happens when blood mixes with white? It just seeps right through. Yeah. So you just saw red spots seeping through the blanket. And I'm there like, what the fuck, man? So we call it our boss. Our boss says, close the store. We close the store. Some guy's knocking on the window. He's like, hey, why aren't you open? I'm like, bro, a human is dead, man. A human is dead right across the street. Just come on, man. And yeah, I just wanted to share that story. Not that it's a good one or anything, but I just thought it's crazy.
What a way
right?
to start the show.
What a way. Happy Halloween, bro. Mm-hmm.
Like you really said, let's wet our whistle. And like,
I just feel I have a lot of stories under my belt, and some of them I just want to get out there because that was a really crazy moment. It was pretty petrifying to me, honestly speaking, but it was pretty impactful. And when it comes to the reason I like that we cover entertainment is because today I heard that song. I heard the song, or at least the album that was being played while I was cleaning right before I saw the body.
Okay.
And I heard one of the songs today. And I just got pretty, like, I don't want to say depressed. That's too exaggerative, but I got really down because I love that music, but I associated with that memory and how young I was. And it really opens up your mind to more darkness. And it kind of makes you a little more, what's the word? Just like raw to the world, because you understand it can end anytime quickly, and realistically,
like a little more jaded.
Yeah, and realistically, it's her fault for jaywalking, but it's also New York City and the traffic it has, and the amount of people. It can be.
It's a lot
draining.
of factors.
It's a lot of factors.
Yeah.
But the crazier thing is that bus went to go on to drive miles and miles and miles more, and it didn't realize how.
Didn't realize?
Yeah, man, it didn't realize it had run over this lady. And multiple cars ran over her, but that's the thing? That's how crazy the traffic is in Flushing.
How do you not realize you've hit a person?
We read the article post, and I think it had gone on the highway or something, and they finally realized. So just first of all, rest in peace to that lady. Really rest in pieces. Oh, but I just think that's an interesting story. There's no moral or nothing. It's just straight story.
So this is a new segment, clearly. Story time with Frankie.
You definitely, bro. It's not even the beehole. It's just story. And so yeah, I just want to share that. And now we'll go on to our next topic. Oh, what do you think about that, first of all?
I mean, that's pretty wild. Like when I think about it, I don't think I've ever been in a situation where there's been a public death around me.
Okay.
So I couldn't imagine just like, because even when you were telling me that everyone's just like staring and like, but everyone's just silent, it's like
that's really how it was.
Yeah, I can't picture that. That's almost insane to imagine an area like Flushing with how busy it is for everything to just stop.
That's a great point. That's a great point because there was no traffic. Kind of like, I don't think it's ironic, but just opposed to how much traffic there was before she got ran over and how much there still is day to day. Just constant. Especially in that little turn, because that's right before the highway. Okay. So you're right. Everything comes to a standstill. And we as people, we just have to know, right? We didn't just ignore it or nothing. We just had to all be there. My coworker literally like, hey, let me traumatize you real quick. Come on outside. And a part of me, I mean, most of me wishes I didn't see that. Most of me wishes that like that never entered my vision. But I gotta just take it as it is and learn from it. Again, there's no moral to this story, but it's just interesting. Yeah. And that's really why I told it. So there'll be a lot of stories like that.
Oh, man. Yeah. Wow.
But on the positive side, Spider-Man. Right? Oh. So I want to mention again that we've mentioned this in past podcasts, but Javi is an avid like comic book enthusiast all around you, all the universes, DC, Marvel, etc. And for me,
I play all fields, baby.
All fields. And for me, I don't play most of them. I kind of just take in what comes across me. But I have said this in the past. A lot of people that I do know and a lot of friends that I do have read comic books. And if you see somebody with a comic book in their hand, be their friend because they're cool motherfuckers. Oh, what's up?
But no, I thought you were gonna say they probably got a big dick, but you know,
hey, whatever, bro. They're cool people too, you know. So, whatever.
We were clearly going on two different paths there.
I like your like damn it. So that's why I was thinking about talking about Spider-Man. Because I saw it recently, and I was just like, no, let's talk about it. Because first of all, the spoilers. Fuck it. If you didn't watch it, you didn't watch it. We're in it now now. So gonna be spoilers, but don't skip it, please. Just watch the movie and then continue listening if you haven't.
If anything, we'll add in an edit where we can put in a timestamp where you can skip ahead of this segment,
or you could just grow up and fucking listen to the spoiler. No, I'm kidding.
That too. But if anything, for the edit, I'm gonna put the space for the timestamp to go right
45 minutes
here.
Got you. I don't know what the fuck he just said, but if it helps you from not getting spoiled, I understand. Well, let me ask this real quick. Why do you think people like to spoil things? Especially with social media today.
It's just some weird satisfaction. It's just like people just like being awful, and it's just so easy to be awful on the internet. So it's just
or like somebody spoiled it for them, so like now I gotta spoil this for you guys.
Yeah,
that could be it too.
Little kids just being snotty brats.
Yeah, little kids spoil shit all the time. Yeah. I don't ask like no kids for feedback.
My baby cousin, he's always telling me about situations where movies get spoiled for him before he sees it because someone at school, we all like everyone in my family has his voice for him where we make him sound like this, and so he's like, "Oh, dude, someone at school." Like,
some kid at school told me Santa wasn't real. Fuck my shit up, bro.
I remember someone told a friend of mine that in the 7th grade, and he shed a tear and was pretty silent for the rest of the day.
One single tear. That was the last tear he shed, bro.
It was pretty surprising. We were all after like that day. I remember we were like, "Yo, does James believe in Santa Claus?"
He's like, "I used to." But all right, so basically, yeah. Pretty much expert compared to like novice in terms of the field of superheroes, etc., etc. And I know just the movie itself, Spider-Man: No Way Home, is a vague topic, but I think there's a lot to speak about. Yeah. And I'll start off with me, like I was saying, we were talking about this earlier, that I wasn't a fan of Tom Holland and Zendaya in the beginning, and a lot of me was like, damn, am I just an old hater? Like, am I just somebody who's hating on the new generation of things coming out? Because I'm on that Peter Parker wave of what's his name, Tobey Maguire.
Okay.
So I was like, damn, I'm not really a fan of how Tom Holland looks. Like in terms, I say he looks like a man boy compared, for Spider-Man.
I mean, he is a teenager in this one.
He's a teenager, but like I just think his face, he looks like Harry Potter put on the body of like the Captain America before he got blown up into, it's just he looks so odd. And then, as the movie was going on, I was just saying, this is kind of cheesy. This is kind of not what I was expecting. And then it just blew up to this crazy, crazy, eventful magic that took me in. Like, it twisted everything around. And as soon as Tom Holland got more dramatic, it was amazing to me.
Yeah.
So that's how I took those parts.
I remember seeing before the movie came out that Tom Holland said that Spider-Man is actually a really sad movie. Mm-hmm. And it is. It's very dramatic. Yeah. And I think it's so interesting that you didn't like Tom Holland and Zendaya at first because you haven't seen Homecoming or Far From Home.
Exactly.
And it makes me wonder if you had seen those movies first, if like you would have gotten used to them in that way, because they're pretty well established by this point because it's a third movie. And like in the first movie, MJ isn't even the girl that Peter's going for.
It's Gwen Stacy?
No, it's just a different girl whose name is Liz.
Oh, okay.
And
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah. So that they really established the characters in a new way in the MCU, and so it really makes me wonder how like you would have taken that if you had started from like Homecoming.
And her name's not even Mary Jane; it's Michelle Johnson. Right?
Michelle Jones.
Michelle Jones. There we go. Again, like you're right. I feel I needed to watch the earlier movies. And my question is, do you think that at this rate, are they following the comics like word to word or pin to pin, or are they kind of off and dramatizing them? Because I was talking about Narcos and how like they dramatize, Pablo Escobar's endeavors with the DEA and stuff like that, which is completely different from like a fictional comic book story. But how are these Marvel movies going forward with that? Are they side by side mimicking the comic books, or are they creating new things?
I mean, it's at this point, it's always a mix of the two things. Mm-hmm. They usually take a storyline and then they build off of that.
Okay.
So in the comics, it's happened before where Spider-Man's identity has been revealed and Doctor Strange erases everyone's memory.
That's been in the comic books.
That's happened in the comics.
Got you.
I've never read the storyline specifically or personally, I mean to say. So I don't necessarily know how his identity gets revealed in the comics or anything like that.
This one, it was Mysterio, right? Mysterio. Who's Jake Gyllenhaal?
Yes.
That's so crazy. I had no idea. I didn't know Jamie Foxx, Jake Gyllenhaal, any of these motherfuckers were in the universe in terms of Marvel movies.
Well, have you seen the Amazing Spider-Man movies with Andrew Garfield?
The first one with the lizard, guy. Which off the bat, since you brought it up, I love Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man because of the scene where he leaves and goes and skates. He just seems like exactly what Peter Parker is, and this is off my basis of Spider-Man, like a lanky teenager who's kind of just childish but still growing up. You know, he has just the voice, the face, like the hair is ridiculous, but kind of also superhero-y. You know, you could like I don't know. He to me he looks like not a man boy, just like a young person. As in Tom Holland, he just looks like a grown ass man in the face. And then young, man. I don't know, man. I just don't see him at all.
I don't know, man. I've like personally the way that I've seen like the different actors who've played Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland. I always see it this way. I feel like Tobey Maguire is a great Peter Parker. I feel like Andrew Garfield is a great Spider-Man. And I feel like Tom Holland is a good mix of the both.
That's good. I like how
because Tobey Maguire, he's good as Peter Parker. He delivers that really nerdy like side of Peter Parker and all that stuff. And Andrew Garfield is good as Spider-Man because he's really funny and quippy and he makes a lot of jokes, which is a lot more like Spider-Man.
Yes.
And Tom Holland does the both. He's really nerdy, but still like very funny and quippy as Spider-Man. And there's this really funny moment in Homecoming where
spoilers. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, continue.
Homecoming being the first one, there's this really funny moment where these guys are robbing a bank and they're wearing masks of the Avengers.
Okay,
and so Peter walks into the store, into the bank, and like the guys are so distracted, like attacking the ATM and taking the money for it, that Peter just takes a second, he scans the room, and he just kind of like awkwardly fixes himself up against the door, and he's like, "Hey guys," and it's just like it's so
like Deadpool-ish almost, like, "Hey guys,"
it's so childish and like funny and just so entertaining, and it's like I think Tom Holland does a great job of like delivering that as Peter Parker and as Spider-Man. But I think what was really interesting is that at some point, well, not at a very specific point, since we're doing spoilers anyway.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's better too, because fuck it. Let's just talk about it, you know? Yeah.
So, and something that's very comic book accurate is what Aunt May says to Peter right before she dies. Because we all know the saying, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
But in the comics, the saying was, with great power, there must always come great responsibility.
That's the actual line.
Yes.
Whoa, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
That's what Aunt May says in the movie.
I just got chills.
So she says the comic accurate version of it. And when I heard that, I was like, whoa, oh my God. And
yeah, awesome.
And then it hit me. I was like, oh my God, like this is Peter Parker's origin. Like in the MCU, that is like all the movies that he's been in, from Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, his 2 movies on top of that, he's been in 6 movies total.
Wow. Tom Holland, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he's been in 6 movies total now. And it's like
but wow, that's pretty incredible regardless.
And I think it's such an incredible way where it's like, wow, we've just been seeing him build up to this moment.
Yeah.
Because especially with how it ends with him donning a new suit, and like he's living on his own now. No one knows who he is. He's really on his own, and I love that new suit, even though we could barely see it in the dark.
Yeah,
and
that was the suit with the claws coming out. I mean, in the beginning, or the newer suit at the end.
At the end.
Which suit was that? Remind me.
It's like he knits it himself. Like it's like you see the sewing machine, and like he jumps out the window, and it kind of looks like the classic Spider-Man suit.
That's what I guess like, I was infatuated with the first one, the beginning scene where legs are coming out his side body.
Yeah, that was cool. The Iron Spider.
That was cool as fuck. But you're right. I like seeing the classic Spider-Man suit because you can't go wrong with that. I didn't know he sewed it himself though. That's awesome.
Yeah, you just see the sewing machine. I was like, that's like, And another thing I noticed too is that when he's carrying the box into his apartment, there's a book for a GED. So it's like, you know, awesome. he's gonna get his fucking high school diploma still, and it's like, you know, there's just a lot of small things where I'm like, wow, this is really like the beginning of a new era for Spider-Man, which is important. MCU.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. I fell in love with the movie instantly. I was like, right from the get-go, I was so excited to see how this was going to continue from Far From Home, because Far From Home ends on the cliffhanger of his identity being revealed.
Yeah, because that's how it starts. Right? Yeah. It's like, his identity is Peter. I was shocked by that, because obviously I have seen the movie from before. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's not supposed to happen. But
this is illegal.
Yeah. But to backtrack, I think it's important when, you know, people are like, oh, the book was better, or the movie was better. But I like how you're able to appreciate and identify Aunt May saying the actual quote. Was it there could be, what is it?
With great power, there must always come great responsibility.
I think that's amazing, because you felt different than I did when we both watched the movie. You get me? Like when I watched the movie and I heard that, it was just like, oh, it's cool. I was like, oh, I know what that means. But when you heard it, it was amazing, you know? And I think those things are important. That's why I asked that question of how much does it compare?
Yeah.
You know? I think they're important, and Marvel keeps that into consideration.
Yeah.
And yeah. Also, I remember you mentioned that when Marvel makes these movies, they associate with the army.
Yes.
Can you give us some info on that? Because when I was watching the movie, we stayed for the credits, as you should. And one of the little things, as you should. And one of the things I saw while I was reading the credits, not all of them, but it said, in no way has Marvel been paid to promote any tobacco products that you've seen in this movie. So I'm like, oh yeah, they don't want to get sued to be like, hey, you're promoting cigarettes to children, da 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 da. Yeah. So they have to put it in there. And like our friend Brian mentioned, you can't, if you're working with animals, you have to say none of them have been harmed or killed.
Yep.
So what is it with the army that Marvel associates themselves with?
Well, they have a partnership with them where pretty much in the deal is that they get to sort of use like military like vehicles and things like that, whatever the case is, and not soldiers, probably maybe just like the outfits and things like that.
Yeah.
And just be able to use certain, I guess, fields or explosives and things like that. So they just have a good deal where it's like they can use all this stuff for their movies and their TV shows, and in return, the military has to be shown in a good light. And so there's a lot of instances in the movies and TV shows where there's the one bad government agent where no one likes, and they're like, oh, this guy sucks. This guy's the worst. He's so selfish. He's just doing all this for himself. He's mad of power, this and that. And then there's the one good government agent that's like, no, we need to do it by the books. This is how it's done. And then it gets done that way, and we're like, yeah. So
in a way, doesn't that sound like propaganda though?
It is.
It has to be, right?
It's definitely a form of propaganda, which is just really interesting because no one really thinks about it. But when it's said out loud like this, it's almost kind of hard to ignore.
It's super hard to ignore, and I didn't even know that the partnership existed, because if it was just Marvel being like, hey, you know, kids are watching, why even just promote the army in a bad way? Why be political? We're just gonna do this for the sake of the story. But then when you hear that, it's like, no, we need to get the information from the army, but also now we have a deal with them because of that information source. And I think that was pretty important just when you create anything, because when you create anything, the bigger you get, the more you're held accountable. And it goes back to, say you were working for like a radio station, and say you were working for a radio station and then you kind of hated cigarettes.
Yeah.
But then their biggest sponsor is Newport's. And they're like, hey, we know you hate cigarettes, but Newport is funding you. They're paying you 25% of your check.
Have you ever seen Mrs. Doubtfire?
No, I haven't. I know it's a classic for sure.
Yeah, in the movie.
Robin Williams?
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
In the movie, I love him. Rest in peace.
That was sad shit when he died.
Yeah,
God,
it was.
Damn. Come on, Robin Williams.
But in that movie, he's a voice actor, and so you see in the beginning of the movie, he's voice acting for like almost a sort of what do you call it? Was it like Looney Tunes? I guess like a Looney Tunes-esque kind of show.
Okay.
Or like Tom and Jerry kind of esque like cartoon show. And there's a character smoking like a cigar.
Okay.
And he starts like going off the lines. He's like, "Oh, this cigar is gonna kill me. Oh,
wow,
it's so bad for me."
And Mrs. Doubtfire?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he's like, "Oh, this cigar is gonna give me lung cancer." And like he starts making jokes about that, of how of what's gonna happen to this character for smoking cigars, and he's doing it in a funny cartoon voice and stuff. And he gets fired for that from his job, and that's how the movie opens up.
Wow.
He's like, "No, I don't like this and this and that, and it's ridiculous. Like, we shouldn't be promoting like cigarettes and cigars to children in a cartoon."
He was kind of sending that message.
Yeah. And
that's
it's just
crazy.
It's almost a meta way of sending that message in a movie, where you see that happen for a TV show, because especially back in the day, like you see things of Tom and Jerry, of like them smoking and things like that, and whatever the case is, and it's just
even the Tom and Jerry's, or like the Walt Disney, not the Walt Disney, Looney Tunes, where they used to wear like swastikas. I'm sure you've seen that before.
Yeah,
but different time and case. But I like that, and I definitely want to check out that scene at the very least, if not watch the whole movie because of its classic essence. But I think it's important. I think it's important because people are watching these movies, and those messages do get across, because kids are very not influential. What's the word? Well, when they see something, they'll take it in as like, oh, well, that's right and that's wrong and this and that. And for sure, like I've seen Army commercials now that are identical to Call of Duty. I don't know if you've ever seen the Army commercial where it's people like doing certain things and it looks like a Call of Duty trailer.
Call of Duty and the Army also have a partnership.
Amazing. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Wow.
The Army has a Call of Duty esports team.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, but wow. And in the college football, Army and Navy both have football teams to play.
I don't know, actually.
No, they do. Like they actually do. Yeah, like sometimes in like Memorial Day or something, like they'll play each other, Army against Navy, which is, it makes sense. But of course, there's promotion of both those things within there. I know a lot of people that I played football with in high school that are in the Army, like in the past or now. I remember going to community college. That's where I went, and on the way from the train to the college, there was an Army sign-up site. So that's how they would get people to join. They would be like, hey, like, as you're walking to class, they would be like, hey, join the Army. They'll have booths right by the school.
Yeah. And
I've always thought, I'm like, that's kind of evil, man, because right, because I completely get the necessity to have an army. Obviously, we need to protect ourselves, defend ourselves. But when your target is people who are developing mentally just out of high school, getting their education, and dealing with some of the most emotional times in their lives, it's a very vulnerable position to be in. And then you have somebody say, hey, we'll pay for education. And you're going to community college, you can't barely afford it. And so we got you with college and stuff. And then you go and you're like, fuck, why'd I even, but I made a instant decision. That is us going down the b-hole, because we just sidetracked.
I was thinking about it at some point. I was like, whoa, well, like we were supposed to be talking about Spider-Man, right? Spider-Man. But that was an intense b-hole.
That was intense b-hole. And if you don't know what the b-hole is, and you're like, why are you talking about asses? The b-hole is it's not a beaver hole.
The beaver hole.
The beaver hole. There we go. It is the beaver hole as opposed to the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
We don't do the rabbit hole on Earth and Mind. Nah. We do the b-hole. But yeah, as we're talking about Spider-Man, is there anything that stood out to you? Any points you have to make about it? Because I really do value the things you have to say about Marvel films and DC films. I remember with The Killing Joke, I loved it. And the Joker movie, I loved it. And you were like, Killing Joke was and you kind of don't like Joker at all with Joaquin Phoenix. So let me know what you think about No Way Home, like final Javi rating.
Ooh, all right. I would say this movie really delivers on what we see from Far From Home, and it really starts the era of a new Spider-Man in MCU, and it's really exciting, and it's really nostalgic, and it's really fun, and it really serves the fans in not a really cheesy way, but in a really fun way where it makes sense. Because as soon as I saw that fucking stick show up early on in the movie, and then Matt Murdock was fucking there, I was
man, that got me hyped.
No way.
That got me hyped because I love Daredevil on Netflix. I love that show so shout out to Brian for putting me on. So good. So when I saw him too, I was like, yo, that's crazy, bro. Like, what the fuck?
And Kevin Feige, who's the producer of like the Marvel movies, he's already said that Charlie Cox is gonna come back as Daredevil in the MCU.
Awesome.
So we're gonna see like Charlie Cox come back in some form.
I'm so hyped.
But it's you know, it's crazy. I once took the train at Charlie Cox.
No way.
Yeah,
he was blind. He was like, no, I'm just kidding.
I was somewhere in Hell's Kitchen.
Of course.
Leaving Hell's Kitchen.
Wow.
On like the NRQ train, and fucking I saw him taking a picture of a fan like at the turnstile. And I was like, what the fuck?
Did you approach him, or you were like, nah, I don't want to be that person?
I didn't really want to be that person, but we got on the train with him, and like he sat down, and like as we were walking past, he kind of looked up, and I was like, oh. And I waved at him, and like he waved back.
Nice. Let's go. At least some form of communication.
Yeah. I was like, yo, man, I'm on the train to Daredevil right now. This is fucking cool.
You should have threw something at him while he wasn't looking. Right? Like, are you really Daredevil? He's like, I'm gonna sue you. Awesome. First of all I'm gonna say is that I think the best actor in Spider-Man was Ned.
Yeah, he was really funny.
He's a great actor.
I just want to see Peter.
That's when he got the Doctor Strange powers with the ring.
Yeah, that was really cool to see too.
And the one movie I'm looking forward to this year in terms of superheroes is Doctor Strange's. Oh, I'm 100% looking forward to that.
Doctor Strange is going to be like the last time we got a teaser trailer for a Marvel movie as the post-credit scene was Captain America 1. Wow. When we got the teaser trailer for the Avengers at the end as a post-credit scene.
That's when I may be mistaken on this, when it was the daughters of Thanos in space. Or am I wrong? It was like is it Thanos' daughters? He has daughters, right?
Yes.
And it's both of them in space? That's the end, or am I bugging? Was that Guardians of the Galaxy?
I think that was Guardians of the Galaxy, the post-credit scene, because the post-credit scene of Captain America 1 was a teaser trailer for the Avengers movie. And that's
awesome.
The fact that they did it again for now Multiverse of Madness, I feel like they're really hyping this movie up. And it's like, yo, man, what the fuck is going to happen in this movie? Like, who's going to show up? What cameos are we going to get? And things like that. Because, like, you know, elephant in the room, the spoiler that we haven't talked about yet, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield being in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, they did an excellent job in the movie. And
fantastic.
Yeah. And they both, like, carried
They addressed the issues with the movies, I think so.
Yeah, they like kind of poked fun at everything too. Yeah. Like the fact that Andrew Garfield's like, man, I'm kind of lame. And like, no, you're amazing.
He's like, thanks, man. I needed to hear that, Andrew Garfield.
I love the little moment where he's like, I love you guys. And they're both like, okay.
And I think that was very humble of them to say, like, Andrew Garfield was like, yeah, I got to fight some rhino guy. Yeah. And then Tom Holland was like, yeah, I fought somebody in space. Yeah, and he's like, you fought somebody in space? I'm still caught up on that. And how they addressed Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire. Yeah, that the web came from his wrist.
That was so funny.
I think that was important because I think everybody and their mom that isn't a real Marvel fan, and obviously you love what you love, but you don't. I used to think that that's how it happened. It came from his wrist.
Before I read comics, that's how I thought it happened.
Yeah, and then you realize no, like, and I learned that from the Andrew Garfield one, where he had to attach the thing to him. I think things like that are so cool.
Something that I wish that they pointed out is that because in the Tobey Maguire movies, there is a Dr. Connors in his universe. He's his professor when he's in college in Spider-Man 2 and 3. In Spider-Man 3, he even identifies a Venom symbiote.
Wait, Dr. Connors is the lizard guy?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And so I wish they pointed that out. That like, oh hey, I have a Dr. Connors in my universe. Like, holy shit, he turns into a lizard. That's crazy.
There's trading cards that I used to have, and they're the only reason why I know about the Rhino guy, the Green Goblin, how he's supposed to look with the hood. That Willem Dafoe killed it, by the way. Willem Dafoe was amazing. He was so good
in that movie.
Amazing. But
that great spider sense scene.
Yeah,
as soon as it happened, I was like, "What is going on?
So
what
good.
is going on?"
Like you just sat there, like, what's happening? That honestly speaking, I was saying I think Willem Dafoe glued everything together for me. For me, he glued everything together because
he even says his classic line from the Sam Raimi films. Where
what was it again?
I'm gonna mess it up, but it's something along the lines of like, I'm quite a bit of a scientist myself.
He says exactly that. And I was like, wow. And we were told by Brian, that he said he wanted to do his stunts because if he didn't do his own stunts, it wouldn't come off as genuine, paraphrasing. And he said, if I'm going to do this character and I'm going to flaunt it like I want to be involved. I want to do my stunts. I want to do what I can to make it real. And I think that's super crucial.
I wonder if he did his own stunts in the John Wick movies.
Maybe. I forgot that he was in the John Wick movies, but that's also a very fun movie to watch. Yeah. I think I've watched 2 of them so far.
The third one is all right. It's pretty good.
But
at a certain point, it's like, it's just a bunch of pow, 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 pow,
pretty much. That's why people who are looking for a crucial storyline in that movie are watching the wrong movie. I think it's more of a film where there's a certain, like a slasher film, I guess.
I mean, they're definitely expanding the story in John Wick. The third one really expands it in a big way. I
think, if for those who don't know, in John Wick, more spoilers, there is a hotel. Yeah. There is a hotel where people, basically in the John Wick universe, right? People are very talented. They don't have superpowers necessarily. They're just like super good assassins, right? Yeah. And there's a certain feature in that world where within a hotel, all the assassins that can join within that hotel, like if you're staying, you can't cause violence, you can't fight each other, and if you do, you get like fined or something.
You get put on the blacklist.
You get put on the blacklist. So that's basically the gist of it. You don't have to know anything about the movie, but that hotel is the safe haven for everybody. And I think they're making a show or something off that hotel.
Really?
Isn't that crazy?
Wow, that's cool.
That was one of my favorite things about John Wick when I watched it. With that hotel scene, everything of it, when they explained it and all that, I thought that was really cool. And their form of payment was a coin, right? Or some coin. Yeah. It reminded me of Bitcoin just because it's not dollars, it's something else.
Fungible.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, so now we're just sidetracking like crazy. So overall, go watch Spider-Man No Way Home in the theaters if you can.
Let me get your final thoughts.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, for sure. I got you. Overall, I think I'm very grateful. I watched it right before the New Year on the 31st.
Nice.
Last movie I saw of 2021. Okay. It just kind of rebirthed my love for going to see movies again because it's been a while since I've been to the theater. It rebirthed it, and I stopped criticizing so much, and I just said, let me open up my mind to what's gonna happen in these Marvel movies because there's so much of them. I feel like if you're not part of the wave from the beginning, you can't really enjoy the later ones. But with this, I mean, I've watched Doctor Strange before in the theaters twice because I love the visuals for it. It's incredible. So when I saw it happen again in No Way Home, I was blown away.
It was so cool. With like the trains going around in a circle. Man.
I was blown away, and that's the hook of the movie. By the way, the donut shop that Zendaya works on, Zendaya, whatever, that is right next to my house. Like I spent my whole childhood going back and forth to that donut shop called Peter Pan Bakery Donut Shop. It's on my way from my house to my old elementary school.
Oh wow!
Yeah, right next to Russ Pizza. Or like, a couple of stores away from Russ Pizza. If you're from Greenpoint, you know what I'm talking about. Shout outs to Peter Pan Donut Shop. That's where she worked at in the movie.
Nice.
Isn't that awesome? So
it's pretty cool.
That's what really hooked me in. And then this film's a sunny side. I like their use of actual New York.
Yes.
Very beautiful.
It really feels like New York.
Yes. And it actually captures it, So I really enjoyed those parts about it. But overall, in the beginning, they may not have grasped me, like my attention and my love for it. But by the end, I had to have said, wow, like 15 times. I was like, oh my God, no way. Wow. I was just amazed. And it wasn't just even Tobey Maguire. It was everybody else. It was everything, a combination of everything. And I love the villains. Like Jamie Foxx killed it. William Dafoe killed it. Whoever plays the lizard guy killed it. And I don't know why I enjoyed this so much, but Sandman. I thought the whole movie, they were going to keep him in sand form because they couldn't get him back for the movie or something.
Yeah.
But when he turned back to his actual character, I thought that was really dope. I thought
it felt pretty powerful. I was like, oh, wow. There it is. My theater clapped when that happened.
Yeah, nice. And to me, it kind of said you're important too. Like, even though you were Sandman in the third movie, right?
Yeah.
Like, you matter, and we're going to bring you back. We're going to pay you, and we're going to make sure that you're seen in the big screen. We're not just going to cover you up in sand to make you not exist. Yeah. And I love the idea of saving the villains rather than letting them die. And then the only part I guess I wouldn't like, and this is my real main part, was when Doctor Strange is doing the spell to make sure everybody forgets Peter Parker. The way Peter Parker interrupted him, he was like, wait. it, you know. I just feel like they could have done it a little better. I thought it was like, I don't know. I know he's supposed to be like that, like a kid. He was like, you're a kid, Peter Parker. But to me, I just thought that little scene could have been done way better. That's my true criticism. That's the only part where I felt like he could have done.
I think that was the point, though. I think maybe that was just like to be annoying.
Yeah, you're right, because it did annoy me. So they could have killed that shit. But ultimately, no more spoilers from here on out. But I like the movie. I would give it a 10 out of 10 just because obviously no movie's perfect. Everybody has different opinions. But for me, great movie. Great fun movie for literally everybody.
Yeah.
Right?
If you've seen any Spider-Man movie, you'll enjoy this one.
Facts. Nice. I wanted to talk about that. I said, fuck it, let's talk about it. Now we're on to the third topic.
All right.
So now the third topic, we talk about COVID a lot, but we're living through this shit. So deal with it. And one thing that caught my mind, I read this article on Christmas Day, if I'm not mistaken, or Christmas Eve. There's an issue with COVID going around that flying is not so easy to do. Yeah. Flying is a difficult task now because everybody's getting the Omicron. People are realizing they can get out of work, etc., etc. When Christmas weekend came around, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there was a lot of air crew and flight crew shortages. Okay. People were calling out. Delta was the most affected. Flights were canceled on Christmas weekend, meaning people were stranded at the airport, going and coming back to their destinations during Christmas, which is crazy. Oh, wow. Of course, the sentimental effect is there where you're like, oh, you want to see your family, this and that. But most importantly, it just sucks to be stranded on a holiday.
Yeah, it does.
When you're taking time out to go see people you love, or
that's the last thing you want to do on vacation.
Anything. And so I started researching because I was reading the article. And one of the most affected parts in the world with this situation is China. The Chinese city of Xi'an is the most affected. And throughout that whole time, not just from China in general, 5,400 trips were dropped from Friday to Sunday. So imagine those 5,400 people or groups or anything. Wow. That'd be tight as fuck. Yeah. I had my flight delayed from New York to Chicago, like 3-4 hours. It was cool at first, but then I was like, bruh. And I got super high before the flight. I got super high before I was going to board. So I'm waiting there, I'm smacked. And then they're like, hey, your flight's delayed. I'm like, bruh, I got high, man. I'm supposed to be on the plane already. I'm here standing awkward, looking at everybody like, motherfucker. But I got to take a shit before the flight. So, nice. So always take a shit before the flight. Don't ever think you shouldn't take the shit before the flight.
At a certain point, you'll get too old to let that mistake happen.
Facts. Lax it is. So the whole point of what I was reading was kind of bland. I was like, nobody really want to talk about flight delays, COVID. Okay. But then within the article, what I saw is that China has a zero COVID policy. Have you heard about this? Have you read about this? So basically, while COVID was happening, China, they closed their borders up for 19 months. In some of the cities, they did drastic things. One of the cities was called, this is how I pronounce it, Haihe, Heihe. Basically, to sum it up in like simplistic terms, if you snitch on somebody who may be transmitting the virus without because they weren't following protocol and not wearing a mask, like say I had COVID, went to a concert. If you reported that person, you'll get $15,000. Wow. Or 100,000 yuan over there. Yuan, that's how they spell it. So that's pretty crazy. In Mongolia, 10,000 tourists were locked in their hotel because of a COVID outbreak. Wow. So you were locked in there, 10,000. That's a lot of fucking people. Yeah. Right? In Beijing, there's a couple pharmacies that lost their license for selling medicine to people without logging their information. Because if you're sick and you're buying medicine, they have to log you in. Say you're buying medicine because you're sick. Huh. Yeah, they if they tested positive, they're prosecuted for failing to report to a fever clinic. And so basically, if you're getting COVID in China, they're fucking you over, saying, "Yeah, we're gonna punish you big. We're gonna really prosecute you." Another crazy thing is that in Disneyland in Shanghai, nobody there was allowed to leave because there was one COVID case. Wow. 100 COVID tests were performed because of that. Wow. Nobody got to leave.
The whole park?
Yeah, man. I mean, imagine you're there and just because one person got it, everybody's being tested.
I'd be like, yo, man, I'm going Space Mountain again. Fuck this.
Yeah, I'm out as fucking well. Hundreds of factories were shut down in Zhejiang. And in Zhejiang, 500,000 people were in lockdown because of COVID. Now, one of the interesting things that I thought happened was that they were locking people up and killing their cats as well.
What the fuck?
Yeah, man, that's kind of crazy, right? I'm looking for the information right here because I cannot seem to find it. But essentially, yeah, they were locking people down in their houses and killing their household cats. My assumption is because cats go to different places and stuff. So it would make sense to do that. I remember during the lockdown, like the actual lockdown, that they were killing people's dogs. Because in Korea, I remember hearing that in Korea that they kill people's dogs. And one other interesting thing, and this is just this is a real rabbit hole within the beehole of things, that what's coming up in China soon is the Olympics and an election. And I didn't know this, but the current president, Xi Jinping, is running for presidency. He's running for his third 5-year term.
People don't like him.
I assume, I think his book was on Amazon, and within China, this you got to fact check me on, but within China, they got rid of all the ratings for all the books in China except his, which has 5 stars.
Nice.
Isn't that crazy? But he's running for his third 5-year term, meaning he would serve 15 years if he wins this election coming up.
That's pretty wild.
That's crazy, bro. That's crazy. And for me, I genuinely think that how COVID happened was fucking... I think these motherfuckers in Wuhan let that shit out purposely. In my opinion.
Yeah.
I'll never stop saying it because it just makes more sense to me. I found what I was trying to say in the cities Chengdu and Harbin and Wuji. People, they entered the homes of quarantine locals and killed their pets' cats.
That's crazy.
It's crazy, man. It's really, really crazy.
I'd be like, no.
I'm like, don't do that shit, bro. In the University of Hong Kong, I mean, this is just some like basic facts, but Omicron multiplies 70 times faster in the human bronchial tubes than the Delta variant. That's why it's transmitted faster. Essentially, I think that Omicron is more so just symptomatic and just makes you appear more sick than you really are, but Delta is the main worry.
Okay.
I also thought that this was really, and for me, this is what I was going through. I thought the zero COVID policy in China is interesting just because we're not going through that yet. But if things got more out of hand, if we got more sicknesses and we were acting wild.
I mean, things are pretty out of hand.
They are.
So I don't know. Dude, I don't think we'd ever implement that here in the States.
I don't think so either. But what if we got to a point? Well, I mean, China is communist, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
I think so too. If we're wrong, whoops. That'll make your ears. But I just think that they have a lot of control of what people have to say. They have a lot of control of how they express their facts of their, continent, country. I forget. I'm horrible at geography. Country. Damn, all my credentials down the fucking. So yeah, I'm like iffy with everything China has to release to us, and I'm not a big fan of their news sources. One interesting thing is that China has 3.6 ICU beds for every 100,000 patients. Okay. So for every 100,000 patients in China, there's only 3.6 ICU beds. Do the math. But in America and Germany, we have approximately 32 beds per 100,000 patients.
Oh, wow.
So it's a big, huge difference.
Yeah.
And you look at the circumstances, it's understandable why they would have the zero COVID policy, but doing things like locking 100,000 people down, killing people's cats, shutting down factories, it's an interesting thing. There's a lot of like scientists, and I forget what else they're called, but they think what happens at the end of pandemics is war. Because the lack of economic boost, there's nothing going on. People are doing what they can to make their country progress rather than the other ones. And war is a very possible outcome for that. And I think that's interesting because if we did go to war, we already expect it. People talking about World War III, this and that.
Yeah. All
What
the
could you
jokes
imagine?
about it and things like that.
So I think it's a very interesting thing. What do you think? Do you think we will go to war? And how do you think U.S. will handle things if they get more out of hand? Not that they aren't.
I feel like, well, I've seen a couple of articles that have kind of talked about that maybe some scientists have said that what we're seeing right now is probably the peak, or what we've already seen is the peak of Omicron in the States and whatnot. And that it's probably going to maybe plateau or just go down from here. Mm-hmm. So it's probably not going to get any worse from here. Mm-hmm. It also seems like we're heading towards herd immunity, and especially in New York.
Okay.
So it seems like things are I would imagine going to get better as the weather gets warmer and things like that, because it just gets harder to deal with COVID during the winter.
Yeah.
I think that's been the biggest factor of it. So it is really interesting, because even like factory shutdowns and things like that going on in China, like that's why we have supply shortages and supply chains, like having situations going on. There's pretty much a shortage on everything in the world
cream
right
cheese.
now. Cream cheese. Like,
by the way, can I tell people why there's a cream cheese shortage?
Oh,
motherfucking the biggest distributor of cheeses. They fucking got hacked. What? I can't give you no more information. Google that shit yourself. I was like, why is there not cream cheese? And then I Google it. And you expect, cows or this, whatever,
I can't believe it's not hacked.
Oh. No, but yeah, what the fuck, man? Who hacked the cheese distributor? But props to that motherfucker, because you hacking cheese, you're thinking outside the box. But yeah,
that motherfucker really woke up and said, you know what? I'm gonna hack
cheese.
some cream cheese. He probably didn't get his cream cheese in his order that morning. He was like, son of a bitch. Like, if I can't have it, no one can.
Literally, bro. And so, yeah, if you don't got cream cheese in your area, thank that person. I just think, back to like the China thing, it's just interesting to me. I just didn't expect that. I didn't want to bring up flight delays and stuff because I thought it wasn't that interesting, but it is a different world over there. We don't know anything about, China itself. But when it comes to the politics of it, back to that like North Korea podcast I heard on that Joe Rogan shit, that a lot of organs that are given to China come from North Korea.
Really?
Yeah, like this fact check me as much as you want. There's a source to get organs if you need them. And one of the leading providers to that source is North Korea and the people that die from there.
Wow.
Mind you, again, like I said before, like kids in North Korea, like they eat rats and then they die. And then when you buy meat in North Korea, you don't ask where it comes from. And it comes back. I mean, I don't want to leech off, what I heard from there, but I recommend everybody hear it because I know like the Joe Rogan guy is on top of the world and people have different opinions. People call him a doctor, horse tranquilizer. I mean, just listen and form your own opinion.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, he's not a politician or anybody. He's just a comedian and a talk show host. But the person he talked to is from North Korea, escaped North Korea, and is a real source of North Korea. And when I heard those things, it changed my perspective and it kind of enhanced what I already thought about China, because those things are very evil.
Yeah.
Not that we don't do evil things here, because we're associated with China in many ways.
It's true.
But little details like that, you get into the grid of it, and it's crazy. And I very much think that China lies a lot about certain things that are said about COVID. And maybe we'll find out the origin of COVID in the future. But it's definitely walking on eggshells when you talk about any of it.
Yeah.
Right? Just think that's interesting. And we should just do a research. But there's so much research to do.
It's really interesting because, I mean, I always think about like if a war is going to happen at any point, because it's been some time and you can only imagine how much has been piled up over the last like half a century to really end up in something that could lead to a war.
Yeah, you're right.
Because there's been lots of tensions and stresses even before COVID BC. And
you got jokes how we got but you're right. You're absolutely right. And this is we're literally living within COVID. That was never a thing before, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it's just it's crazy because everything that already sucked just sucks even more now.
Yeah.
And it really just, it really does beg the question if this is going to lead to something bigger, because I thought maybe for a while, like, a civil war is going to happen in the States.
Yeah, me
especially
too.
when like the Black Lives Matter protests were
100%.
going on, and like the riot at the Capitol,
Trump
things
in
like
office and stuff.
Yeah. And I thought it was bound to happen or something. We were really close to something bad happening. That Capitol riot was kind of wild.
Yeah. And even just the protests of Black Lives Matters while COVID was happening.
Yeah.
Right. Isn't that interesting how a lot of people, and you know, I wouldn't want to label everybody part of the Black Lives Matter as liberal, but most liberals, I would assume, advocate for masks and COVID protocols, but they're also out there protesting not 6 feet at all, in large groups, going back to their other family and this and that, spreading. Like, the Black Lives Matter protest was a super spreader event. It had to be. And even the Capitol riot is a super spreader event.
Of course.
So just how we ignore COVID and how the news covers the protests more, and for a second they forgot about COVID, covered it as just protests, looting, justice, whatever you want to label it as. But they say we don't take COVID serious enough, but neither does the news. I think so too.
No, we don't.
Not at all.
They take the juiciest stories like any other media news outlet, and they just kind of floss over it and don't really think twice about it.
Yeah, as long as the headline hooks you in and we get views. And even Fauci with his whole idea of, I know it's not just Fauci who just makes these decisions, it's the CDC.
Yeah.
But cutting the work off from COVID from 10 days to 5 days.
Yeah.
Just like, he literally said it's because we don't want our
society to like slow down or something
because of jobs and stuff like that. So that's why we're cutting the 10 days to 5 days. But wait, what? Does that make any sense? Is that really what you're saying to the people right now? And just like if Trump said something ignorant, people will support him blindly. I think the same thing with Fauci and Biden.
Oh, of course.
And Kamala Harris. They'll just support him blindly because it's like, hey, put on masks. The only people that I think that have the fullest right to advocate for masks and stuff like that are the immunocompromised people. I listen to them the most. When I see people who are perfectly healthy, perfectly fine. Look, I understand advocating for safety protocols, but when you're kind of mocking the other side and saying like, hey, you don't wear masks, so I'm going to show you why you're dumb for not wearing masks. It's kind of vice versa for the people who are like, well, you're wearing masks, the conspiracy theorists or the people. But when I see people who, you know, I know personally who have cancer and stuff like that, and they say, just know that I'm the person that's most worried about getting COVID, because to you, it's a couple of days off work, but to me, it's being in an ICU, risking death to me. And then I think about, wow, that's why, you know, you could get the vaccine or not. That's why you should wear a mask or not. And I think about those things. But when it comes to motherfuckers who just post shit on social media and just are arguing, just doing it to argue, I think you're ridiculous. And you shouldn't be making a point to be correct. You should be making a point because you truly believe in it.
Yeah.
I just don't think a lot of people are advocating for vaccines and masks because they believe in it. I just think they want to correct people who are advocating against it. I don't think people who are all young need to get a vaccine. I don't think that. I don't think 5 years old should get a vaccine.
It's a little like weird to think about like kids that young getting like
it's
the
super
COVID
weird.
vaccine.
And
I mean, like, I guess like you get other vaccines when you're young and stuff, but it's just weird to have like this new vaccine. Like,
and think about those vaccines
included.
you get when you're younger. They prevent you, like polio. We don't get polio at all. We're not at risk to get polio, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to COVID vaccines, they said you won't be at risk to get COVID no more. I mean, or is that not the definition of a vaccine? To like not get the disease?
Well, it's just to defend you as much as possible.
But we don't get polio no more. We don't get measles no more. We don't get none of those things no more.
Because the way it works, because COVID, the virus it's similar to the flu, how it mutates and develops every year, or how it's constantly changing, like how we have new variants for it.
Got you.
Measles and polio doesn't mutate or change anymore.
But that's my ultimate, like, what I'm trying to say to you. A lot of people are saying, well, you've gotten vaccines in the past, but those vaccines have guaranteed us safety from those diseases, in my opinion, right? When I say polio and measles, I've never met anybody that has that now. And when you see things like COVID and stuff, I mean, why are we getting boosters? Because the COVID vaccine couldn't fully protect.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, you're right. It is forming, different variations of it. But in my opinion, it's just weird. It's just a weird thing. The FDA didn't approve the booster, right?
Initially, they haven't?
No, I mean, initially it wasn't, and it's not an obligation to get it yet, but that was halted off the bat in the beginning. That, again, you could fact check me too, but they didn't allow that off the bat.
No.
And I think it was
only for immunocompromised.
Yeah. And that's where my biggest thing goes to. Like that's why I say I don't think like 5-year-olds, 20-year-olds, or even like 30-year-olds should be getting it. I really think it's just, well, I mean, do what you want. I don't give a fuck. But I think it's mostly just people who are diabetic people, older people, overweight people, cancer patients, et cetera, et cetera. Those people who are going to be at most risk when they do get COVID. You get me?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, again, it's controversial nonetheless. No, it gets eggshells, but we're wearing boots out here. So fuck it.
Just crack every fucking egg.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man, but at the end there, stay safe.
Really. Of course.
Fucking China got us talking all fucking serious and shit.
We did get a little serious.
Yeah, we got a little. Before I start fighting in here, bro. Nah. but it's important to have these conversations maturely.
Yeah.
I think me and you can both agree that we're not gonna start screaming at each other because of cold. No. But this is what also I'm trying to say is that a lot of people do get like that. They get scream me over instead of like conversation. No. Rather than attack an anti-vaxxer, why don't you just have a conversation with them or listen to them? Don't treat them like this person who's ignorant, or because for me it's the same thing as if you believe in God or something else. I know there's different from scientific to faith, but some people believe in God, and if you don't believe in God, you're not gonna be like, well, you're stupid. Right? You're gonna be like, hey, let me just hear you out. And I don't think that people who advocate for the vaccine, especially younger people, they kind of just push people who are anti-vax down. Some people are allergic to the vaccine. I know somebody who knows somebody who works in plumbing. They're allergic to the vaccine. That's a real thing.
Really?
Yeah. People have died from the vaccines.
No,
that's nobody ever wants to talk about that, but that's a real 100% real thing. You don't even got to fact check me on that.
No, I mean, of course.
But some people are allergic to the vaccine and they're obligated to get it. And the only people who are exempt are the ones with religious.
But how do you know you're allergic to something you haven't gotten?
On the ingredients in it, the ingredients within it. Aaron Rodgers, the NFL quarterback, throws the ball. He's allergic to the vaccine, and that's why he doesn't want to get it. And I mean, it's just like food, I guess. Honestly, it's not. This is way different than food. but this person
just cook up a vaccine real quick.
I'm a doctor now. Call me Dr. Fauci II. But he didn't.
Call me Dr. Chef.
He had to pull out his savings because his job said you either get the vaccine or you don't work here no more.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And again, I'm not at all in agreement with forcing people to get it, mandating it. Again, these are just my opinions. I'm not trying to be like, this is the truth. This is not. But we are deep into it now. And like you said, herd immunity is real, antibodies and this and that. And I'm not at all a doctor. So I just I just listen to fucking people who say shit and I take it in, research a little, but kind of repeat it.
Yeah.
But I have formed my opinions. I just want more mature conversations. I don't want any more screaming over this.
No.
You get me?
Yeah. I mean, everyone's allowed to have their own opinion. And I mean, like, to not drag on this topic too long. Yeah. Because
we've been chatting for a bit.
It's just, stay safe.
Basically. That's ultimately what we're trying to say to you. And do your research. Do your own research. Like if you really feel like I sound like an asshole right now or Javi sounds like an asshole, like just do your own research and just keep it to yourself. Unless somebody asks, it's just a weird world we live in. Everybody has an opinion.
Yeah.
Right? So do we.
Yeah, and that's why we're doing this. That's why you're fucking listening.
Yeah, we got way serious. I'm so sorry. Let's go on to some entertainment.
Okay. some entertainment.
We got some entertainment.
Some fun, light-hearted entertainment.
So the movie we want to talk about is called The Vaccine.
Oh my fucking God.
No. Again, to anybody still listening, thank you. Always. And now we are up to our A.M.C. section.
A.M.C. baby.
Album, movies, comics. And this week we're doing movies. We watched the movie yesterday. I've seen it before. Javi's never seen it, right?
Nope.
And it's a good movie called The Warriors.
The Warriors.
The Warriors. If you're listening to this and I just said The Warriors and you were like, oh man, that's a good movie. Go watch that movie immediately if you not have seen that movie. But I will say it has aged a bit.
Yeah.
Definitely aged a bit. So to go further with that, this movie came out in 1979.
Yep.
It was directed by Walter Hill.
Okay.
To give a brief little intro, if you haven't, because it is an old movie and I'm sure not everybody has seen it nowadays. It tells a story of a bunch of gangs in New York City. Mm-hmm. There's one man by the name of Cyrus that wants to form this unification of all the gangs. He says to the gangs in this grand speech where he says, "Can you dig it?" He says, "We're all gangs in New York City. We all have our little turf, our little piece of turf. We protect our little piece of turf. The Warriors had Coney Island and the other gangs had this and that." And he says, why not, instead of having this one little piece of turf, we all come together and have all of New York City.
Yeah. In
the movie, there's like hundreds of gangs. They all meet up in this little area. They form Cyrus. This is the beginning of the movie. And he's saying there's 20,000 cops in New York City. And I think he says like there's 28,000 gang members. We can have this city. And everybody's like, yeah. And when I was, watching this movie again, I noticed something. And I know I'm kind of just diving right into it.
Okay. Go ahead.
But the movie was very theatrical to me. And I was pretty high. So what I noticed with the movie is that there's nobody else in the movie except the actors. Like there's no civilians, there's no side actors, no extras
like that.
It's just straight up the people within the movie, and they all kind of showed up cinematically. I mean everything. Of course, cinematic because it's a movie, but to me, it seemed like a play.
Yeah,
that's the first time I've ever taken this movie in as a play. And we did some research even yesterday watching it, and the movie is based off a novel.
Yeah,
the novel is written by Sal Uric, but the novel itself is based off a Greek story.
Oh wow!
Yeah. The Greek story is it tells the story of a professional soldier and writer called Xenophon.
Okay.
And to quote the website, the source, it tells the story of the expedition of a large army of Greek mercenaries hired by Cyrus the Younger to help him seize the throne of Persia from his brother. So that story from, Greek times, should have got the time period, made the Warrior novel, which is more grittier, more specific, and much more raw. I think so. And that's how the movie came about. If you haven't seen The Warriors, there's basically a bunch of scenes where the gangs come out. The guys with the baseball bats, the guys with the roller skates, the group of girls, and the Warriors gotta basically run through all of them like a video game. Fun fact, there is a video game based off the movie. We talked about that a lot. And it's kind of like going through each crowd to get to Coney Island. That's the whole story, right?
Pretty much. Warriors one night, framed. Getting home.
Yeah. The guy giving the speech gets shot, and they frame the Warriors. One of the things I wanted to bring up is that in the director's cut of the movie, he wanted this movie to have comic book transitions.
Okay.
Because he felt that the movie was comic book-like. And it didn't make it to the final form of the movie. That's why it's the director's cut. But having seen that movie, do you think those comic book transitions per scene would have helped that movie out? And do you think it's relatable at all or anything like that?
I was actually kind of surprised to even see that because before we started this, you showed me a clip of the opening of the director's cut, and it's a sort of like Greek myth, like opening, like written tale, and it switches to sort of comic book format, and that kind of really threw me off. It surprised me, and it never hit me when we were watching of like, oh, this is almost kind of like a comic book, because the only thing that was in my mind was like, this is definitely like a video game.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that hit me. I never thought of it as a comic. So when I saw that as a director's cut, I was like, that's really interesting. And so I could definitely see it be made as a comic, because anything could be a comic, really.
True.
So that's a really interesting perspective on it, to see it as a comic book.
Yeah. And how everything doesn't make it to the final product.
Yeah.
This movie was put out by Paramount. So
Yes.
Paramount was, the source of the movie. And yeah, I never even knew the comic book was a thing within the director's cut. I've only seen the original movie. And of course, if you haven't seen the movie yet, check it out. I'm trying to detail it as much as possible. But it really is one of those movies that's a classic that you kind of have to watch to understand what we're talking about. But the basis, again, is just gangs in New York who are trying to stop the gang that they think killed the person trying to unify them.
Yes.
Essentially. But they were framed. They were killed by Cyrus, the guy who was giving the speech, was killed by a different gang. Spoiler alert.
But I mean, it happens right in the beginning.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, just check it out. And damn, if you didn't watch it, I'm sorry. But aside from the movie itself, which we can get into in a bit, because I do want to talk about the specifics of the movie, there's something that happened during the release of this film.
Okay.
Now, one other thing that I showed you before we starting the podcast, is we kind of revisited Alec Baldwin. How what happened wasn't technically, quote unquote, his fault, because he didn't, quote unquote, he didn't have his hand on the trigger. Right? And I mean, I don't know what happened. You don't know what happened. We weren't there. But Alec Baldwin, he cried while he was saying that. He seems like he's apologetic. Keyword seems.
Yeah.
But it's controversial nonetheless. And I was like, is there going to be a court hearing? But I think we as people take movies kind of serious. We kind of take it as a really eventful thing. Kind of like with Seth Rogen and James Franco, how when they were going to put out the North Korea movie.
The interview.
The interview. And North Korea threatened to retaliate if that was released. And then they halted the screening of it and only released on Netflix.
Yeah.
I always thought that was such a bitch move by them. It was Sony, right? I don't know if they Sony released it. Probably not.
I think it was Sony.
Yeah. I hope I'm right. Pussies. Because to me, when I heard that, I was like, why would we step down? Like, this is not to be all America, but this is freedom of speech right here. This is freedom to create, freedom to do. And it kind of comes back to that question I asked in the beginning. If you're creating something, will you let the bigger people control what you're saying, putting out, creating? And there's no right or wrong answer. Because if there's a company that's saying, hey, you can't be racist, and you're like, wow, I want to be racist on this. It's like, whoa, you can't do that. So there's reasons for that. But things like the FCC don't exist no more, because you can't control the internet like you can control TV.
Yeah. Right?
It's kind of too big of a wormhole. So I never liked how they halted the interview from being screened in theaters. I never liked that. And now why I bring that up is that when this movie was released, 3 deaths occurred post-release of this movie.
Really?
Somebody got stabbed in the heart, somebody got stabbed in the stomach, and there was a shooting at a drive-in theater.
Oh, wow.
This all happened while the movie was being screened. People were leaving, this and that. The crew of the movie, they denied any linkage. They said our movie had nothing to do with these crimes happening, even though all the people that died were either watching or leaving the theater to watch it.
Uh-huh.
And so what they did was they pulled a lot of advertising for the movie after, but eventually they put some up just to get the word out there. But what they didn't want was for the news to say killing after the movie, and then right after the news is a commercial, come watch the Warriors. They didn't want that. So they pulled it for a bit, but they configured how it would come out afterwards. Paramount also hired 670 for 670 theaters. They hired security for those theaters while the movie was screened.
Really? Private security and stuff?
And that's interesting because they denied any linkage to the crime. But why would you hire security if you didn't think you had any fault?
Yeah.
Right? 2 shows were canceled in Oxnard and Palm Springs. And the 3 murders occurred in Oxnard, Palm Springs, and Boston. So, I mean, people died because of this movie, supposedly.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. This was very interesting the spokesman for Paramount, Gordon Weaver.
Okay.
He said he did not believe that the movie inspired the violence. He said the incident in Palm Springs the participants have been involved in, it was another fight unrelated to the movie. And that in Oxnard, the blacks had not seen the movie, but the whites... No, the blacks had seen the movie, but the whites had not. So that's what he said. He said, what happens is when you have an event where you have large groups of people from diverse backgrounds meeting in a common forum, it perhaps provides a setting for something antisocial to happen. Huh. That's really interesting wording. Basically saying that you can't have people together from different cultures because they're going to fight.
Yeah.
That's super odd to me. I didn't think that was okay.
It's a very tribal-esque like way of looking at it.
Super. And you can never say that today.
No.
Especially you can never say the blacks have seen the movie, but the whites have not.
Yeah.
You can't say that today.
No.
But that was his reasoning for it. And a mixture of cultural people is going to cause a mess in the melting pot that is United States of America. But nonetheless, the state senator of Massachusetts, Michael LaPresti, he complained to Boston. He said, hey, it depicts youth crime in a glamorous manner. They wanted to ban the movie in Boston. And that's it. And the district attorney said that they would watch the movie and see if it was violating any local statuses. Huh. People also threw rocks and bottles at police cars after the drive-in show. And the thing about the murders that happened in Oxnard, there's in that year, on the year before, 1978, there was only 14 murders in a population of 100,000 people.
Okay.
So rarely do people get murdered in Oxnard, but just so happens when this movie came out, a person got murdered leaving the theater.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But somebody in Boston, a theater manager in Boston said, I'll tell you one thing though. We haven't done such good business in 15 years. Not since we had My Fair Lady. And this, when we were talking about Capote and Philip Seymour Hoffman, I think Philip Seymour Hoffman was in My Fair Lady. That's relevant. But still kind of interesting how he said our business hasn't been booming like that.
Yeah.
Why are people so attracted to these controversial things that happen in movies? AKA The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger killing himself, Philip Seymour Hoffman in that movie ODing on heroin or whatever he died from.
I mean, people just want to form their own opinion. Everyone has that morbid curiosity. Everyone wants to know. But
does it make you want to see the movie more? If people are dying because of it?
I would say so.
Me too. Yeah.
It's just that morbid curiosity again, where it's just, there's something about it where even with the story that you told of the lady getting run over,
yeah,
there's just something about death that just really attracts us.
It does.
Just, we're glued to it. When it happens, we're like, why?
Yeah.
And we have to stick around for it. And we have to figure out why.
And I think about the Dark Knight shooter. The Dark Knight shooter who went to that movie in particular to shoot up a whole bunch of people. And just cause. I mean, of course he was severely depressed and he had mental problems and stuff like that. But in the movie, at the end, where the guy's like, the Warriors come out to play, with the clinking of the bottles.
That guy's got issues.
Yeah, he got issues like crazy. Did you know that initially what he wanted to do, instead of clinking the bottles, he wanted to hold 2 dead pigeons?
Weird.
He wanted to hold 2 dead pigeons, and the director was like, nah, we're not doing that. He thought that the clinking the bottles would be better. But what I thought also is that Luther, the guy who clinked the bottles and said that, and also shot Cyrus, what was his reasoning for killing Cyrus?
He never said.
At the end, what he said, I just wanted to do it.
Yeah.
He's like, I just wanted to do things. I like doing things like this. And that reminded me of the Joker.
I did say that was like a real Joker move.
Right? Yeah, you did. Because I remember in Joker sitting on a pile of money and then burning it. He's like, you don't understand. Or paraphrasing, of course. He's like, I don't basically do this for money. If you're not on my level, I do this for, for me, because I want to, just cause.
Yeah.
Right? And
the chaos.
Exactly. And I think that's a real common theme that we're kind of diving into, kind of like serial killers in the FBI. If you ever watched the show Mindhunters, how we used to never investigate serial killers. But as soon as they started to become more common, like motive and reasoning and all that stuff, they said, we need to start researching these people, because if we start doing that, we'll get to know why people do these crimes. And I think we're doing that now with like school shooters, the Ethan Crumley kid we talked about who shot up, I think his school, where he had the note of the teacher with 2 bullet holes and the emoji laughing.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to just investigate these people. And super interesting. So that's just some little back plot of the film. I thought, aside the movie being itself, I thought that was interesting. And
it definitely is.
Yeah. I mean, but aside that, what did you think of the movie? Like, what would you, I know we were talking a lot during the movie. I never like watching movies when people are talking. We were watching it as a group.
Yeah.
And when I watch movies, I like complete silence, complete focus. But you kind of watch this with a little more interruption. But what did you think of the movie in general?
I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. It almost surprised me that it hadn't been remade already.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
But it's pretty crazy to hear that that this is technically a remake, since it was based on a novel that was based off of a tale and
True.
things like that. And the fact that there's a video game off of it, and you guys were saying that the video game follows like a sort of different version. So I think it's really clever clever way of storytelling, where you can retell this story and the same message just gets across, where it's just this tribal gang life is just so chaotic and dangerous and insane. And to do it in a time like this, like the late 70s going into the 80s of New York City, is such a great setting for it. It was so brutal, and it's like it works so well. It's like gangs in New York City in the middle of the night during the late 70s. Like, of course, it's going to be dangerous. And the movie does a really good job of setting that up.
Hell yeah, man. And this is before even like the 90s and stuff, where like Crips and Bloods and the West Coast and the East Coast and all that stuff really like comes together. But gangs have been around like forever. I mean, when you say tribalism is a very real thing. And I kind of thought it was contradictory of a movie to talk about unity so much, and then the Paramount spokesperson says, well, I mean, you can't have different groups of people watching this movie. And all that's like, what are you saying? I wrote this little note. It just sounds a little, what's the word, sophisticated. But I wrote, Cyrus's motive was to conjoin all the gangs, painting out how individual gangs controlling small sections of turf is minor to them all working as a collective unit, outnumbering the police and controlling the city. This unification crushed by Luther, who murdered Cyrus and blamed the Warriors just because he likes doing stuff like that, quote unquote. I just think that there's a message there for like the world and for just any anti-vaxxers and vaxxers or just people who are angry, people who are not. And we got a phone call. All good. You know, I just think there's a real rooted message in there. And I just think it relates. You could take it as you want, but at the end of the day, controversy and havoc can happen in such a quick instant. And like how I say, China let out the COVID, that's a quick finger to point. But just like Luther pointed the finger at the Warriors, and now the world's gone crazy. You know, it's kind of interesting how things can go off so fast.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I love the movie. I love the visuals. I just love, I mean, the wardrobe. The movie had a budget of $4 million.
Yes.
And I don't know if you remember how much it equated to today.
Today, it equates to about $15 million.
That's crazy.
So it's still a tiny, tiny budget. That's like an indie movie right there.
In comparison to like major films and stuff. But I think the movie made about $22 million.
Okay.
Yeah, it made $22.5 million.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, could have made more probably without the things that happened, like, you know, the murders and the...
Maybe it helped it.
Maybe it did, honestly speaking. But I wonder, and not to like hope for it, but what movies in the future will do this to people again? If it will. Because I really think... I mean, the guy shut up the theater because he wanted to be like the Joker.
Yeah.
And that's a really important thing. Because he even resembles some of the comic book plots. Not exactly, but the shooting of the movie theater I heard was similar to one of the plots in the Batman comic books.
Oh,
I'm not sure if I'm correct or not, but yeah,
I don't know.
That's what I saw in the news thing, but not like word for word. It was one of those things where he shot up a crowd of people or something like that. And yeah, I just I just think it's an important movie, and it's a fun movie. It's a fun movie for the whole family.
I don't know, for the whole family. What I think the movie does really well is that it establishes pretty quick that not everyone is going to survive this night.
True.
With the death of Cyrus right away, and the fact that one of the warriors gets got in the middle of all the mess of everyone trying to run away immediately off the bat, not everyone is going to make it out.
Yeah.
And about half of the crew only makes it out by
pretty
the end
much
of the movie.
Pretty much.
It's pretty wild.
You know, one of the scenes where the warrior member got tangled up with the cop and the cop pushed him into the train.
Yeah.
Did you know that character got like killed off because he was having beef with the leader of the warriors?
Like the actors?
Like the actual actors. I forget their names. Yeah, but the one that got kicked on the train was like having beef with the main, like the lead actor, the league of the warrior, the leader of the warriors. They killed him off because of that.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting? And they were saying, I mean, in the reviews are like, why did he die? It's super rude. They're like, you know, you're gonna die, you get the fuck out of here. But when I saw that, I'm like, wow, that's so interesting because I mean, you gotta make certain decisions. You get me? I don't know, but I still think that movie is a classic. I won't say it holds up like it did before, just because there's so much new things happening. But on a personal level, I think that movie holds up just because there's a real theme there. There's a real originality to it, and you gotta be a crazy motherfucker to think of all that. Imagine writing all that stuff down, and it was a novel, of course, too.
Yeah.
So you gotta give props to Sol Urich. He's really the one to be, you know. But then you also think about the Greek story itself that it was based off of, called Anabasis. I don't think I said that. It's called Anabasis.
All right.
And that's probably written mad long ago. Yeah. Just about Greek brothers trying to throw over somebody, the throne of Persia. You know, it just...
Yeah, I mean, a story like this, it's just... I'll say it again. I'm surprised it hasn't been remade.
Yeah. You know, I never thought about that.
Should be remade because this movie is a bit dated. It's got some dated terms, like they throw out the F word like pretty casually.
Yeah, you do. I mean, fuck it, man. You gotta say what you gotta say. But no, I was gonna say it, but whatever.
But like, it's definitely like there are things like that where it's just like, I feel like a more modern version of it could make it almost like the definitive version of it. How with West Side Story just got remade and released.
Oh yeah, it did, right?
Yeah,
I forget about West Side Story. And
that was really well made. A lot of people are saying online that it's probably the definitive version of the West Side Story. So I'm surprised we haven't seen something come up. It would be amazing to see this get remade because I feel like it'd be incredible to get like some good named actors in there.
Yeah, it would actually.
Like get some really great sets going. It could be a good set piece for the 80s still because it was really interesting watching this movie and seeing the city.
Oh, in
79.
The train with graffiti, the station, the cars, the clothing.
Only like 3 carts per train.
Yeah, man.
Tiny.
Everything. And then the tokens and the turnstile. Which is, first of all, also somebody died in New York City jumping a turnstile. Yes. And then we saw nothing but turnstiles in the movie. Universe type shit. Last couple of things I'll say. One of the things that I wonder if they'll ever remake a movie and mimic every single scene exactly, but just replace the actors and the visuals.
That'd be cool.
That'd be really cool.
I think about that sometimes.
That should be and I think if they were gonna do any movie, it should be this one. Because I think maybe not just me, people would be infuriated if they changed up a lot of things in this movie. Because it's just so...
No, I mean, you shouldn't change it. It's
not
just
at
like...
all.
Like the West Side Story remake, it was almost pretty much like 1-to-1 for what it was before. So you don't need to change anything in the story. You just need to redo it. True. You just need to do it again.
But then you have directors, and directors are like, this will be better. And then it's like Sonic the Hedgehog with his teeth.
Nah, that's all you got to get the right director for.
Facts.
That's it.
Facts. Absolutely. So nice. Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, it's a classic. The Warriors is such a different movie compared to today, and it just captures the time period, you know. It
really does.
That's fucking awesome.
It was a really good movie. I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10.
Hey, I'll take the 8. I'll give it a go fucking see that shit. In my opinion. But yeah, I mean, we're at the end.
We're at the end. This is the end. Oh my god.
Just like everything has to come to an end.
Man, you know what's crazy?
What's crazy, bro?
My back kind of hurts from carrying this fucking episode.
I'm out of here, bro. I'm out of here. Nah, man. Honestly speaking, it's always very fun to do this shit. Some days we should kind of freestyle it maybe one day and I'll come unprepared. But prepared is the best. Always the best. I just feel like nowadays, I know this is just our second official episode, but we've done about 5 of these now. Yeah. And
we've gotten into a real flow and a real groove of things.
Yeah, man.
It's working out pretty well, I
think. Hell yeah.
And to close it off, we got our social Earth Mind Matter Pod on Instagram.
Yes, we do. Follow us.
We're going to be posting plenty more on that. We're going to be having more logos come up and things like that. And hey, in the future, maybe we'll have you guys make fan art.
Hell yeah. Fan art, guests on the show. And just tell us anything. Criticize, what's the opposite of criticize?
That is another thing, actually. You brought up guests. In the future, we might have other people on this show.
Yeah, I would love that.
Because new voices are always going to bring in new opinions. And we're a very opinionated show.
Yeah, we'll make sure they're not as interesting as us. No,
of course. We still need to be, top dogs.
We're trying to earn this bitch, bro. No, we'll definitely at the end of the day, this podcast is for the people, but it's also for us. It's an outlet just to speak, and everybody has an opinion. Not that everybody's correct, but do shit. do this shit because it's vital that you just get your mind out. Like that story I told in the beginning, I told it because it was just interesting. I don't think it's the best story ever, but when were you gonna hear some shit like that? Yeah. And I bet you I know everybody. There's
definitely a way to start the episode.
Everybody here has a story either like that or as impactful as that.
I don't. Man.
Anyway, welcome.
Should I be jealous?
Listen to my new podcast featuring me telling stories without Javi.
Man, fuck that show. That show's lame.
No, but this is very fun. I'm happy with this. The first release coming this Wednesday, January 5th.
5th.
Wow. Time fucking flies. Do whatever the fuck you want to do on this earth. That's what I got to say.
And when you do it proud. Facts. Do it loud.
Facts. Except if you farted. Anyway, this is what happened on earth.
In our minds.
And why it mattered. This is January 3rd.
And this is Earth, Mind, and Matter.
Happy New Year. To many more.
To many more.
Yeah.